Welcome to Latinos Who Thrive. I'm your host, Victor Escalante, and I'm excited to take you on a journey where we celebrate the inspiring stories and remarkable achievements of Latinos making a difference in America. In each episode, we explore the experiences, challenge, and triumphs of our guests, highlighting the impact on their communities and beyond. From entrepreneurs and artists to community leaders and visionaries, you'll discover how our guests have turned obstacles into opportunities and dreams into realities. Joining us today as a special guest, Olga Abinader, who is the Director of Environmental Review at Matrix New York City office. Born in the Dominican Republic, Abinader immigrated with her family to Salem, Massachusetts in the early 1990s. Get ready to be inspired and motivated as we hear the stories of perseverance, innovation, and success. So put on your headphones and let's go on this exciting journey. And now we have joining us Olga Abinader. Olga, welcome to Latinos Who Thrive.
Thank you for having me.
Olga, tell us about your origins. Where are you originally from?
I'm from the Dominican Republic originally.
And how did you come to the U.S.?
Well, I was 7 years old, and I remember one day my father and mother sat down with me, my younger sister, who was about 3 at the time, and my mom was pregnant as well. So we had a little brother coming on the way, and they sat down with us and they told us, Olga and Giselle, who's my sister, we are going to be moving to a new country called the United States, and we're going to be changing everything that you know, but trust us, this is going to be for the best for all of us and all of you and the entire family. And what we're going to do is we're going to take you to America, which is the land of opportunity.
Okay. Now, did you believe it? Were you a little afraid?
I was terrified. I was thinking, wow, what is this new country about? We're going to leave my friends, the home that I know. Most of my family is going to remain in the Dominican Republic. So I was scared as a little girl, thinking, what's happening? Why are we doing this? And what's the purpose? And in fact, I did convey that to my parents at the time. And my dad just sat down with me and said, listen, this is the land of the American dream. This is a land where you are going to be able to pursue anything that you set your mind to. So although it seems like it's hard right now and like it's a sacrifice that we're going to be making, you're going to see just how much you're going to thrive in this new world. So don't worry, don't stress, just know that this is going to be the best for all of our family. So imagine as a 7-year-old, you must be, thinking, wow, what's going on? What's happening? I was certainly terrified because I did not know the language of English, which I knew that my father had told me was the main language in America. But he was really all about saying, hey, this is going to be what we do and you're going to be fine.
Okay. I am also an immigrant from Mexico, and I didn't know a word of English at age 10 when we immigrated. What was the hardest part for you in learning English as a 7-year-old?
As a 7-year-old, I just didn't know what to expect. So we came to JFK. We came to the airport at the moment that we arrived at the airport, and I see that everything is in English, a language that I did not understand. And my father and I looked at each other and I said, Papi, yo no quiero ir a la escuela. Yo no sé hablar inglés. I don't want to go to school. I don't know how to speak the language. I don't know how to speak English.
Okay.
So that was the challenge for me, figuring out how to integrate into what we know now as the American community, the American fabric. So what my father did with me was he sat down with me. He gave me access to books that were both in English and Spanish, slowly started to integrate me and introduce me into this new world, into this new culture. And little by little, I started getting more and more comfortable speaking the language, reading the language. I was in the second grade at the time. So with each step, with each new word I knew, my father and my mother would push me, habla con esa muchacha, speak with that little girl next to you.
Yeah.
Try to integrate. Try. Just make an effort. Don't be scared. So it was really with that kind of encouragement that I started becoming a little less shy and speaking with the kids next to me, and slowly started building up that confidence of getting more and more involved in the English language. Now, I'm going to tell you, I made mistakes. I said things that maybe were incorrectly indicated in the English language. But guess what? After I made that mistake, the only thing that happened was that the kids next to me would just tell me how to say the word in the right way. So very slowly, I started learning that it was okay. It was okay to be imperfect. It was okay to fall down as long as you know how to get up again. And
Isn't it amazing how as children, we are fearless and bold and nothing stops us? But as we begin to age and as we begin to buy into the fears and the stereotypes, the being conscious of what other people are going to think and say about us,
yeah,
that we begin to hold back. I don't know if you're familiar, there was a study that was done, I think it was at Stanford, where children were asked at first grade, can you sing, can you draw, can you, let's see, act, sing, draw, act, sing, and draw. And
right.
they followed them through college. And at the end of their university education, they asked them, can you sing, draw, or can you dance? The majority of them said no. All of them said yes at the outstart. The majority said no.
Yeah.
So again, it's that those fears of societal pressure that we begin to lose our spontaneity to be bold, to take charge, and to take a risk that lead to greater fulfillment in life.
Absolutely. I mean, my parents encouraged me at a young age to take those risks and to not fear falling, but to, always encourage me to get up again and try again. And I think having that experience at a young age as a child and having that boldness, as you described, just kind of encouraged by my family was a real game changer for me. It certainly led to me learning how to speak English to the extent that 2 years later, I was already in public school in an all English speaking classroom.
Yes.
And I found that it was that one win that really set the platform and the stage for me as a young person in academia in the United States to know, hey, I've got to take risks. I've got to be bold, and it's going to be okay. And that really has influenced me in my entire life. And I think starting at that young age really gave me a very positive advantage.
As a little girl, our listeners, I can see you, but our listeners can't see you. You look like a Generation Z, a Zoomer. Are you? or a millennial?
I would fall under the category of millennial, but we'll leave it at that.
Okay. As a little girl,
yes.
Who inspired you? What did you dream about being as a little girl? What did you aspire to be when you would grow up?
So once again, my family was a big influencer here. When I was in the Dominican Republic, I had the opportunity to really interact with my extended family. And in my family, we had women architects, women business owners, we had economists, people in academia. And from a young age, I saw that people who sound like me, who look like me, who shared the same last name as me, had all of these wonderful careers that they were passionate about and they were contributing to their community in one way or the other. So I saw from early on that they were able to do that. So it really was a no-brainer to me that said, okay, well, this is what people do who look like me and sound like me. So that really influenced me in saying, I guess this is what I'm going to be doing moving ahead, something like
Yes. In your experience, Olga, you were with other immigrant children you moved to New York. Is that where you relocated to?
We initially started in New York and then made our way to Massachusetts, to a small suburb of Boston. So there were other immigrant children who were there with me, who I recall were next to me in the second grade, yes.
As in your experience, were the children encouraged to succeed in academia? And the reason I ask you that question is because a lot of immigrants, and Houston, where I'm home based, is the one of the melting pots of immigrants from all over the world. We have over 100 languages that are spoken in our general area, and And a lot of the immigrant parents do not encourage their kids to excel in academics, much less continue their education to go to college and get a university degree. You come from educated family background. Your family tree is full of professionals that contribute to society because of that preparation. In your experience with other children, did you witness a disparity that they weren't necessarily encouraged or supported to excel in academics?
It was a mix. Some families did have that privilege of having educated parents, but I would say it did lean, especially in the Hispanic community that I was a part of, in the other direction, where, the parents were maybe not necessarily professionals or even educated for a variety of reasons. They didn't have those opportunities. So I didn't see that same level of support that was available to these other families, not through the fault of their own, but just because of the circumstances that life had given them.
Yes. Yes, I had a PhD doctor in education. Actually, I've had several from academia that are immigrants. And a couple of them have done studies on that disparity in education among Latino immigrants. One focused on women, the other one focused on men. So I'm always interested to know from other parts of the country, and with every guest, is like, how were you encouraged to continue your education? Now, tell us what your formal degree is in.
I have a degree from Brown University in urban studies and architectural studies, and a degree from Harvard University in a Master of Urban Planning.
Okay. Now, you are the first. You are the first with that type of education to be on Latinos Who Thrive. Tell us what inspired you to go down that path, other than maybe being influenced by some of your family members.
I was really interested in the communities around me. I was really interested in the other Hispanic children and immigrants who were there next to me, who didn't necessarily have all of the privileges that I was afforded. Starting from educated parents to a safe home, a place to live in a neighborhood that was viable and, healthy for them to live and play. And I've always been very inspired by the idea of having a home, and a home that is resilient, a home that is safe. So that really opened doors for me in the fields of architecture, and currently my field of urban planning and environmental planning, really thinking about community and health. And
did you have any challenges in the pursuit of your degree?
Oh, certainly. I mean,
what were some of those challenges? Because we have a lot of young women and men that listen to this podcast. What would you say to those younger demographic that can identify with your story, when maybe you wanted to give up, maybe you felt that you weren't cut out for it? Well, what were some of those obstacles?
Yes. That happened so many times, especially in the academic setting at these, very fancy Ivy League institutions. There is definitely a sense of not belonging, or I think it's called imposter syndrome.
Yes.
Feeling that, someone else should be in here, and not, why am I here? Do I really fit in? Do I deserve to be here? So I would say, if you ever feel like you are not ready, not enough, not sufficient, or you don't belong, just remember that everyone else who looks like you and has your aspirations and has maybe succeeded to that next level, they felt the same way. They had that same series of sentiments and emotions going through them. And they found, through their own hardship, through the struggle, that they did belong, that there is a place for them, that it is okay to be different, and there are no apologies needed. We all have a seat at the table, no matter our background, or the privileges that we have or don't have. So shake that imposter syndrome and know that we all go through it, and it's just a phase. That's what I would say to them.
Sure. And we've covered the topic of imposter syndrome that actually came out of a couple of PhD graduates, postgraduates in one of the eastern states. I want to say either Tennessee or Kentucky, to where they were Anglo. Okay, they were Anglo, but because they came from an impoverished background, even though they had all of the qualification and education, they still didn't feel that they belonged there. Okay,
it's a real thing.
Yeah, so imagine that being born white in this country, born to privilege because you're white, at least in the academic world, compared with Latinos that you don't look the part, you don't sound the part, you don't have the last name Jones or Smith, and trying to struggle and then being made fun even among your own people.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Because you're trying to assimilate, and then te dicen, ¿qué quieres ser? ¿Gringo o gringa o qué?
Sí,
¿Qué te crees? ¿Qué te crees?
Yeah, I've had comments like that before or directed at me.
Yeah.
And I think you have to develop a thick skin and
do.
And look, my goal is my own, and I appreciate where you're coming from, but my opinion happens to differ. I am here for a reason. My parents made a big sacrifice in order to bring us to this country. So I felt that responsibility to just keep going. So
good for
in
you.
many ways that really leveled with me and I think was very helpful.
You're listening to Latinos Who Thrive with special guest Olga Abinader. We'll be right back. Are you ready to unlock your full potential and embark on a journey of limitless knowledge and boundless creativity? Look no further than Wizard Academy, where dreams become reality. At Wizard Academy, they are not just a school, they're a community of visionaries, dreamers, and achievers. Whether you're a student, a working professional, or someone looking to reinvent yourself, Wizard Academy has a place for you. I know because I'm a graduate of the World Changers class of 2007 when I worked in print media. Imagine being guided by industry experts where innovation knows no bounds and where your passions are transformed into skills. Their cutting-edge programs span technology, business, arts, and more. You'll discover the magic within you and you wield it with confidence. At Wizard Academy, they embrace diversity and creativity, and they celebrate your unique journey. So be sure to join them in the heart of innovation where the extraordinary becomes ordinary. Visit them at www.wizardacademy.org now to explore their lineup of courses, faculty, and the incredible success stories of this community. Your future is waiting. Unleash your inner wizard today.
Are you ready to put your business into overdrive? Tune into the Sam Pice Podcast Show, where we explore the secrets to entrepreneurial success. Every week, Sam and producer Victor Escalante dive into strategies for fast growth, managing adversity, and rebounding. Whether you're a seasoned business founder or starting out, there's something for everyone. This is the only show of its kind for the Rasa. Don't miss out on the insights that can help you scale your business. Subscribe now to the Sam Pice Podcast Show, available on all major platforms. Your success awaits.
We now return you to Latinos Who Thrive with special guest Olga Abinader. Obviously, you started out thinking in Spanish and then translating in your mind to English, right?
Yes.
Now, as I'm sure you're completely assimilated to now, you think in English and translate when you're speaking Spanish in your mind para poder traducir.
A veces sí, a veces no. So in the home and domestic setting, which is of course very important to me, everything is in Spanish and then translated to English.
Okay.
Anything related to food, the home, I'm a mother, my children, my family, I think in Spanish. And then anything else is external. It translates to English. When it comes to my profession and when it comes to that kind of that work setting, then there's a bit of a code switch, right? So I learned in English what my current professional training and skills, they were all in English. So that gets English first and sort of Spanish second. But in my mind and in my heart, lo más importante es el español. Y se lo estoy enseñando a mis hijos también. That means the most important thing for me is remembering where we come from and really taking the tradition of Spanish speaking in the home and giving that as a gift to my children, because it opened doors for me for sure.
Why do you think that being bicultural and bilingual is a superpower?
Oh, well, I didn't know that. I thought it was a superpower, but you're right. It is one. It's special. It is because it connects you to different worlds in a way that is deep, it's profound, and that you're able to navigate in a way that someone who doesn't speak that language wouldn't necessarily understand. So you can sort of become a member of each of the communities because you're able to speak in their native language. So it's a superpower because you can be you in English or you can be you in Spanish, and you still are brought in and understood.
As a young adult, who were some of the authors that influenced your mindset?
Oh, Julia Alvarez. Women who wrote in Spanish and celebrated Latin culture, especially the Latina diaspora. So I would say those are the people who influenced me in terms of authors in the books.
Yes. I had recently a PhD individual who is also the head of Publica Press here in Houston, that is associated with the University of Houston. And they're actively looking for Latino and Latina writers because they have done extensive publishing of the Latino diaspora from all over the world that have come to the U.S. and especially here in the Houston area. And she opened up my eyes to some of the literature from Latino writers that we need to be aware of to immerse ourselves in those stories and that narrative that has shaped our culture. Who other has any American writers that have influenced your mindset?
Isabel Allende.
Okay. I think Publico Press has published Isabel Allende. I'm pretty sure they have.
That's wonderful because she's one of my favorite writers of all time. Junot Diaz as well, who had the pleasure of meeting in New York City. I love his work, and I think it's very avant-garde and really tells our voice in a humorous but very factual way. So those are two additional Latin authors who I really admire and have influenced me while I've been, moving through my own trajectory. And I know that there are more who would love to celebrate, but not just in writing and in books, but also in the media, the way that we as Latinos are portrayed. I think telling our story in a variety of different mediums is so important. So I'm really glad that you brought that up because it's so important for us.
After you graduated, tell us about your journey into corporate America and working in the corporate world, and what were some of the obstacles that you either had to overcome or you're still fighting?
Okay. Well, I graduated from a master's degree in 2008 when there was an economic downturn, which made it very challenging to find work, let alone find work as a Latina immigrant, a female, and someone who wanted to really change the world, which I still do. It's still one of those things that's of interest to me. So one of the things that first stands out is that there's always this kind of unconscious bias. As soon as you go into an interview and you present yourself, as who you are, which I'm a Latina woman, English is a second language. So oftentimes you see that maybe the expectation is a little different because you're not that typical, say, prototype of the American person. So they may not necessarily look at you and say, oh, this is a person who's prepared. This is a person who has a command of the English language that's necessary for this role. This is not necessarily a person who can handle themselves by, say, before a client, and who the client will trust. So it's all those small, little bits of unconscious bias that kind of work against you. So I found that as a professional, I've had to be extra prepared, extra researched, ready for anything and really working twice as hard to achieve half as much, as the saying goes, in order to work through my career. Now, I started in the public sector. I am now in the private sector. So those are two very different dynamics. In some ways, people in the public sector might look at my background, especially compared to New York City, where I started my public sector role, as a benefit. Why? Because, like you said, being bilingual is a superpower. In a field where you're expected to communicate across different communities, so you can speak that Spanish language, maybe it was a benefit after all. So while it can be a bit of a double-edged sword, you also have to play up you being different as a benefit and as a plus. And then that's how things kind of started to work themselves out for me as a professional. Really taking what could be seen as a disadvantage and using that as my superpower, to use your terminology.
Yes. Okay. In your experience, you're in New York City, correct? You're home based out of New York City?
My home base is New York.
New York, okay. In your experience, what are you seeing in your part of the country as far as the Latino demographic that is scaling up in the different fields that we were underrepresented? For Texas, we are now the largest demographic, and in Texas, Latinos are the number one demographic that starts the most businesses, small businesses. What are you seeing in your part of the country?
Luckily, I'm seeing similar patterns both in New York and New Jersey. I am seeing the Latino business owners who are thriving and receiving awards in New Jersey, a very strong Latino Chamber of Commerce. I am seeing Latino elected officials in both New Jersey and New York that are representing us as a community. The Dominican, Cuban, Puerto Rican communities are really representing us well. And it seems like it's, that the world has really turned a page. And while there might be those challenges that we're talking about, we keep seeing Latinos, us as a community, going from strength to strength to strength. So it's very promising. And I'm very excited about that.
In Houston, just in Houston alone, the economic impact of Latinos in the Houston area is right up around 50 billion. And I may even have that number wrong. It may be a little higher than that.
Amazing.
But it's like we are now an economic force to be reckoned with.
We are, and a political force to be reckoned with.
Yes. Latinos are scaling up into politics.
Yes.
In your experience, why do we need to become actively involved in politics as Latinos? Whether we're immigrants, whether we're first or second gen, why do politics need to be a part of our culture?
They must be a part of our culture because no one else is able to tell our story and represent our needs and also what we can contribute if they don't have the experiences that we do. So representation matters. Representation matters. If someone is sitting at the table at the White House or other areas where decisions are made, that person looks like us. They live through our experiences. They're better able to not just tell our story and contribute in a positive way, but also bring up the challenges that can help our collective group get to that next level.
Okay, very good. What would you tell Olga, the younger Olga, when she was a teenager? Now that you are a self-made woman, what advice would you give her that maybe other young Latinas can benefit from?
Be fearless. Take the risk. Do not have the regret that you were too shy or too scared or that you felt that you weren't right either for that, taking that new role or new position, or taking that really tough class in high school, or volunteering and raising your hand to respond to the teacher when they ask the question. Your opinion matters. Your experience is unique and it's so rich. So go for it. Go for it and be unafraid.
What do you miss the most about the Dominican Republic?
I miss the warmth of the culture, the climate. I miss the food. I know we have it here, but it's not exactly the same.
Do you still visit? Naturally. Do you still visit the Dominican Republic?
I try to go every single year. We have so much family there.
Yeah.
I miss a lot. I miss a lot, but I know that it's there and it's always home.
I recently read a book by one of my mentors. It's called Rice and Beans Millionaire. It's based on a true story right there in New York. Of a, of an immigrant from the Dominican Republic. Apparently, there's a dish that is very typical of the Dominican Republic, which is beans with rice with pulled pork, and that's all he sold. That's all he sold in New York City, and he built such a thriving business that he couldn't supply the demand, so he went and hired all the Dominicans in the immigrants from the Dominican Republic in New York to farm out the food preparation.
That's
So
amazing.
so he would have enough to sell, and of course the rest is history.
That's amazing, and it just goes to show you that there is a place for us here, and there's
Absolutely,
certainly a market.
absolutely, and what it took for this gentleman is again just taking that chance and just taking the next step and the next step and seizing opportunity wherever he saw it.
Absolutely. Sometimes it takes a little bit of a win, that little bit of encouragement, and that gives you sail to your wins. And that's what I want to make sure that all your listeners out there are really, I hope this resonates with them. Take that little win and run with it.
Absolutely. Tell us about you. You work in the government sector. Is that correct?
I used to work in the government sector for over a decade. I rose through the ranks, and now I work in the private sector for a company called Matrix.
And tell us what your company does, Olga.
Yeah. So Matrix is formed in 1990, and it's a company of scientists, environmental consultants, engineers, and it really offers a wide variety of service areas, including offshore wind, marine, waterfront, civil and structural engineering design, and also survey services. In addition to a variety of other services tied to environmental remediation, environmental review, and post-disaster recovery and permitting, really tying to climate resilience. And what I like to think about when I think about Matrix is that it really is a company that cares and that plans for a more resilient future. And that's what excites me about working for Matrix.
As a scientist, as an informed expert, Olga, what do we need to know about climate change, about green energy? Tell us what we need to know as an expert, not as an opinion from someone off the street.
We need data points, we need to be prepared, and we need to care. Those are the three things that I would mention. We had, for example, in Puerto Rico, after 2017, Hurricane Maria, there was a major disaster that left a lot of people out of energy, out of power, really powerless in many different ways. So Matrix was engaged by the United States Maritime Administration, it's called MARAD, to evaluate the condition of 12 significantly commercial ports after the devastation that was left. And through getting those pieces of information, we were able to provide our client with the data points in order to rebuild for a more resilient future. So one of the most important things I would say as an expert, as you call it, is that getting the data, believing the data, and learning from the past is really what's going to help us create a future for generations to come that is safe, that is resilient, and that is healthy.
Very well put. Here in Houston, we recently went through a hurricane. It was a level 1 hurricane, and it took out the power out of over 2 million people. We were without power. Luckily for me, I was only without power for 3 days. No internet, no power, no cell service because of the area that I was in. Some people, it took 2 weeks, imagine, without power. And we really don't know the full extent of the damage, but one report said that we had over 20 people that died from heat exhaustion and from trees falling on their cars and their houses. So again, we need to take this very seriously.
Yes.
And listen to the data points, listen to the experts, Forget about the pundits and the grifters. That's how they make their living, by being talking heads for the private industry and lobbyists. That's what they get paid to do.
Correct. Listen to the facts. Listen to the data. Look at the research yourself and see for yourself.
The facts don't lie, and that's why we need to be informed, and we need to have people like yourself be talking to us and getting the message out to the communities.
Absolutely. And in fact, some of the most affected places, some of the places that are most vulnerable to these climate change events tend to be people who look like us.
Yes.
Are like us, immigrant communities. Those originally redline communities are now where these climate change effects are hitting us the hardest. So even more important for people like us to really communicate, to make sure that we're training ourselves and future generations in these fields, and to make sure that we're giving ourselves the information that we need in order to equip ourselves for the future.
And this is another fact that I'm sure that you can concur, is a lot of people don't know this, but a lot of the climate change is driving a lot of the illegal immigration, because people are starving. Their crops are failing. Their way of life has been altered so much because of climate change that they have nowhere to go. They have no other option other than risk losing their lives coming to America, just in the journey, but also all of the pitfalls in coming to America, because it's either die where they live or die along the way, and it shouldn't be that way.
It shouldn't be that way.
It's the 21st century, not the Dark Ages where the Almighty ruled everything.
And that's a great example of the direct impact of climate change on the communities that you and I come from. I mean, it's incredible, and it's very real.
Yes. Very real. Olga, any final words?
Thank you so much for the opportunity to speak with you today. And again, just to the listeners today, I just want to share with you that if I was able to achieve the accomplishments that I have achieved so far, then they are able to achieve that and then some, that and even more. I believe in you, and keep going.
Very well put. You have to come back and bring us up to date on everything that you're doing.
My pleasure. I would love that.
Thank you.
Thank you.